Good afternoon. I'm here with Jason Hahn today, and he's the founder of Midwestern Public Adjusting. And he makes sure that you have a smooth experience with no hidden obstacles when you deal with insurance companies for your property claims. So if you ever have any doubts or questions, he's the man you want to contact. Can you tell us why, Jason?
Yeah, the purpose of contacting me or a public adjuster is just so when you get help, when you have a problem with your insurance claim on your property, that you're getting help. Sometimes there's policy issues like coverage that you as a property owner may not know or understand. And contacting somebody like me to better understand what's going on with your policy or the damage to your property it is always helpful.
Very interesting. And can you tell us specifically what, like little nuggets of what we need to know?
Yeah, it's just when like here in Colorado, we get a lot of hailstorms, and sometimes you might have a contractor that one looks at your roof and says that there's damage, and then the second one looks at your roof and says there's not damage. Who do you really trust that's gonna give you right advice and let you know whether or not you have the damage? And somebody like me would be able to tell you that yes you do or no you don't, because I'm on a percentage basis, and so if you don't have damage, I would let you know, because I'm not in the business of taking advantage of an insurance company. I just want to make sure they take care of you and pay you properly at the end of the day.
Very decent. So you're pro-claimant then.
Exactly.
Yeah, sounds good. And can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so I have a civil engineering degree, and I did commercial construction. I built high schools and middle schools, and afterwards the economy crashed and I had to find something else for work, and got into roofing. And eventually I met a public adjuster that said I'd be good at insurance appraisals, and I started doing that for a few years and eventually decided to start my own public adjusting company, and have been a public adjuster for about 9 years now.
Okay. So, can you tell us a bit about your specific role and how it fits in the big picture at Midwestern Public Adjusting?
Well, my company, I wear all the hats. I work with contractors that they'll refer their clients to me when they think there's legitimate damage that was missed by the insurance company. They'll recommend that the homeowner contact me, and I'll go out and look at their property and determine, if I can help. If I can help, they sign my paperwork. I contact the insurance company. I supply the insurance company with an estimate that I wrote, and I schedule a meeting. I meet with the insurance adjuster and try to reach an agreement, so that that homeowner can be taken care of.
Okay. Can you tell us how your experience in construction actually adds to your role as a public adjuster today?
I think it's huge in the impact of how I write an estimate, that I know what it takes to get the work done, whether it's building the roof or whatever the scope of work. And on top of that, I actually have done the work. So I've installed a door. I installed a little bit of shingles on a roof, but when it comes to like a clay or concrete tile roof, I can pull a tile off, do the inspection that I need, and put the tile back on properly, that there's not a concern. Where a lot of people might have an issue with something like that. And I know what other things, when it comes to proving a point of what needs to be done, so that
Mhm.
I can prove what I need to. And my construction background really helps me in accomplishing arguing my points for my customers.
Yeah, I see how that can be. That's definitely a bonus. Um, what major shifts have you seen in your industry lately, Jason?
The major shift is policy language. These insurance companies, are very, very smart. And they know, when they lose a lawsuit, well, I got to change this. Back in the day, it used to be, at least here in Colorado, if you had a roof in three trades, you got overhead and profit, which was 20%. And then, an insurance company, doesn't pay overhead and profit when there's a roof in six trades, and it goes to court, and they can't explain why they didn't pay it. So now the change is, instead of saying a roof in three trades, they're saying complexity. They use the word complexity, and you go, well, what does that mean? How many trades does that mean? And they just use it as a word. So now a roof in 10 trades, they say it's not complex enough, and nobody will put down in writing what the word complexity means to them. They just say it to deny coverage. There's some other policy stuff like, I like concrete tile roofs and clay tile roofs. And they now have put policy language of obsolescence in their policy. And that talks about material being obsolete. And if you have a concrete roof that's 20 years old and now they don't make that tile and you can't repair your roof, if you have 100 tiles that are damaged, the insurance company is saying, we'll pay for the 100 tiles, but the rest of the roof we're not going to replace just because you can't find the material to repair your roof. So even though you have coverage, you now can't repair your roof, and replacement of the roof is on you, even though you have insurance and the whole purpose is for an incident like this. And they put these language in the policies now, to essentially save them money. And I know it's expensive, but that's part of what everybody's paying for coverage.
That's super interesting. Um, and how has these trends impacted you and your business in at Midwestern Public Adjusters? Has it affected any of your business or growth strategies at all?
I mean, like that obsolescence clause that I was just talking about. I
Yeah.
mean, that affected my business a lot because I mainly, for a long time, that was my main focus, and my reputation was my knowledge on concrete and clay tile roofs. And when a lot of these policies have that obsolescence clause in it, and I read the policy before I decide to take on the claim, and I see that obsolescence clause, having 100 tiles that are damaged, and now they don't have coverage due to the material being obsolete, that's not an option to help convey to the insurance company to replace the roof. I'm having to turn down a claim where I can't help that homeowner due to that clause. And it's really causing a lot of issues in the industry. I mean, I'm turning down a lot of business, and it affects my business, but it really hurts that homeowner, because now they have a roof that has damage, that the material's not available to repair the roof, and the insurance company goes, hey, here's $1,000, you have a $3,000 deductible, but repair your roof with material that's not available, and you have 30 days to do it. And then the homeowner has to take out a loan and replace the roof out of pocket. How is that okay?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And plus, there's the timeline too. That's not really fair, right?
Mhm.
Wow. So what are your challenges and what are you focused on right now then with taking this trend into account, say?
Right now, I'm focusing on trying to get more contractors to do business with, meeting property management companies to get larger projects. I mean, I deal with hail and wind. So if there's not a hail or windstorm, I tend to get slower. And I pretty much have to wait for another storm. If there's a big fire, I probably would change and focus on that until a hailstorm hit. I was just talking earlier that I'm hoping for the state of Colorado. that will have the insurance adjusters have licenses. That's one of the big issues that I find in my industry here in Colorado is I'm a public adjuster with a license. I consider myself a professional, but the people representing the insurance company is not licensed. And if they're not licensed, then in my opinion, they're not professionals. So I'm working with non-professional people, let alone that if they act in an unprofessional manner, there's no consequences to their license. They literally can, a hailstorm can hit a property, the hail can go through the entire roof, and that person goes, that's not hail, that's just you're not maintaining your property, and they get away with it. There's no one to complain to say, hey, you were wrong. I'm going to file a complaint against you, and you can explain yourself to that person. And if they think you're too inappropriate, you lose your license and things will get resolved. The insurance company could say, we sent somebody professional, they're well trained, even though that's not the case. I say every once in a while, that some of these adjusters I meet, the person worked at McDonald's yesterday and without training is looking at a roof and making a policy decision with no knowledge whatsoever. And even though I say it like jokingly, it has happened before where, the guy's scared to get on the roof. Like, why are you, as a professional, if you're there to look at hail damage to the property and one of the components is the roof, how are you scared to get on the roof? And how are you unable to take pictures and document things and make a decision if you can't see what's going on?
Yeah, and it would set criteria for being able to do specific jobs if there was a license, right? Um, the first part of the question sort of shows that you're you pivot very easily and you're very adaptable. I'm talking about Midwestern public adjusters as a whole, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? A little bit more about that, Jason?
I mean, the job just in general as a public adjuster is everything is different. I get phone calls from all kinds of situations, like maybe a tree fell into the property and caused damage.
Mhm.
And, that's where my civil engineering degree really comes in, where, another public adjuster might actually call me and say, hey, can you look at this and give me your opinion? How would you handle this? And what do you think should be done? And I've done that before. It's just, there's no set standard. There's, people just kind of learn as they go. I think with my college education and how I was trained in engineering school, it's allowed me to kind of just learn as the process goes on and sort of pivot throughout how things change. I mean, the insurance companies, want change. That's kind of their advantage, is to change the landscape constantly. And my job is to represent the homeowner in the best way, or property owner in the best way that I can. So when there is a shift in the industry, I have to learn how to shift and how I can help my consumers.
Yeah, wow, that's decent. I really like that. Where do you see Midwestern public adjusting in 6 months to a year from now, Jason?
I don't see too many changes. I mean, I've been doing the same thing for years, and I kind of just focus on hail and wind claims in both residential and commercial properties. And my goal is just to help homeowners. Sometimes I can help people and sometimes I can't. Sometimes people just call me and say, this is what's going on with my claim. And maybe I'm not able to sign a contract with them and help them physically, but they're able to give me the information over the phone of what's going on in their claim. And I'm able to tell them what, if I was working the claim, what I would do. And a lot of times people are able to write down and take notes of what's going on with it, what my recommendation is of how to work their claim, and they're able
Mhm.
to do it themselves and resolve their issue without having to hire me and negotiate with the insurance company.
Yeah, I see that. There's a lot of value in what you have to offer for sure. Is there anything else that you would like to add in closing, Jason?
Uh, just, I think the biggest thing that people can do is before and they have to file a claim to have proper coverage. The difference between recoverable cash value policy versus actual cash value policy. Does your policy change, for hail or wind? Do what kind of deductible? I mean, that kind of shocks people when they think they have $1,000 deductible and they have a 1% deductible. Making sure that your property has proper coverage as far as if your house is to rebuild costs 500,000, that you don't have $300,000 in coverage. Or if you have other structures like other buildings like a barn, that you have proper coverage for those buildings. If each building is worth $100,000 and you have three buildings, that's $300,000 it takes to rebuild that. Why would you have $10,000 in coverage? And then also like ordinance and law coverage. That's a big, huge thing that I think everybody should have, because code coverage is so important. If anything happens, that could be the difference between you getting properly taken care of or not. And it's not really that expensive to have in your policy. And then exclusions, understanding exclusions that are in your policy. Are metals excluded? Is the obsolescence in your policy and obsolete material? If you have material on your property that's old, you want to be careful about an obsolescence clause because, that can end up being very costly for you.
Yeah, for sure. I can see that. So many little things to think about. Well, I want to take this moment to thank you and for teaching us what's important when we do a property claim and all the gold nuggets that you gave us. Thank you so much, Jason. It was an honor having you on the podcast.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.